Did you guys see? I posted actually what I think like a week ago, maybe now. The new laws they have in the UK. Genuinely interested to see how well it holds up, and if other countries are going to do the same. But there's a new law about sending dick pics now that can actually land you in jail for doing it, and someone has already been convicted of it. Have you guys heard about that? Because I know I shared it once, but it's like a week ago or something. Yeah, well, cyber flashing is what they called it. Do you know what? Let me show you, actually. I've got it open on a tab. So this is the government website for the UK. Cyber flashing to become a criminal offence. So this was back in the end of January. So cyber flashing will become a new criminal offence with perpetrators facing up to 2 years maximum sentence behind bars under a new laws to be introduced by the government. Let's have a look. Online safety bill will include new cyber flashing offence. Maximum sentence of 2 years in prison. I don't know how I feel about that, because 2 years isn't really a lot, but then again, I guess digital dicking. So if someone sends you a dick pic, they could get a maximum of 2 years. I don't think anyone's ever going to get 2 years for it. They'll probably get less than that, but like, depending on how severe the dicking is digitally, right? Like I'm trying to think, what would you need to do to get the maximum sentence of 2 years, right? I imagine if you had like multiple people with the cases against you, like if you sent your dick to like a group chat or something, and every single woman in that group chat decides to take you to court, I think cumulatively the maximum they can give you would be 2 years for that. Part of the wider government efforts to ensure laws keep pace with emerging crimes. This part kind of important because the thing is, right, there's a lot of fucking digital crime out there. In fact, a lot of laws are really fucking out of date. This is the reason why we have things like the writer's strike, because lots of like contracts for writers and so on don't include digital services like streaming and royalties from that, so they're not getting paid for their work. That's why Scarlett Johansson sued Disney for Black Widow, because that didn't have a theatrical release. I generally think we're kind of behind on the time when it comes to updating the law to be suitable for things that are like, because the big one right now, AI is completely fucking unregulated. The reason people are making money from AI is because there's no law regulating how much they can make. So they can scam, steal, rip off people in any way they want. No one's going to punish them because there's no law stopping them. And as soon as there is any form of regulation, it's just going to dry up immediately. It happened with streaming when Netflix first started streaming, and it was the only, model in the business, like the whole industry. And everyone's like choosing between cable or just Netflix. Netflix fucking ate all that audience up. And, people stopped the cable subscription for it. Now there are so many fucking streaming services because of things being regulated, divided, and so on. It's fucking ridiculous now. In fact, I think in total, if you were to have a subscription to every single streaming service, it would cost you more than cable, I think, at this point. That's usually what happens. There'll be a bubble because something's new and it's unregulated and it's really easy to exploit. People are going to make a lot of money, and then it gets oversaturated, heavily regulated, and completely unviable. And the person who ends up suffering for it in the end is usually the customer, because the way they keep up with it is just by increasing the prices, which is what Netflix and Disney Plus and like Amazon Prime have been doing, and then putting ads on top of that, which is bullshit. Because the whole point that Netflix was, so popular in the first place when it first launched was there was no ads. It's just you watch what you want whenever you want without having to wait for an ad. That was like the key selling point, but here we are now. Anyway, back to the topic on hand. In 2020, 76% of girls aged 12 to 18, concerning numbers, have been sent unsolicited nude images of boys or men. Pretty abysmally, shockingly high, depressingly high numbers, actually. So I imagine because there was no specific law for things like sending dick pics originally, it was very difficult to prosecute people for things like sexual harassment or anything like that online, because there's no law specifically identifying it as that. So it was probably like really fucking annoying to get people convicted for that sort of thing. I'm guessing this will hopefully make things easier. I don't know if it will. Like I said, it's only been like a few months since they've actually passed this. Okay, I imagine once people start, if depending on how hard they enforce this sort of thing, it probably, if it will reduce the amount of like cyber flashing, what they're calling it, actually happening, if people start getting convicted of it, or if it won't even stop anything, because there's a chance that if it doesn't get enforced at all, because there was no law for digital harassment or sexual harassment like this across the internet, specifically identifying dick pics as that, it was probably very hard to prosecute someone for doing that sort of thing. But I'm hoping, but then again, there's the fact that people can just do things anonymously online, I think makes it difficult to obviously track down the person to even prosecute them. Apply to England and Wales, so it sucks to be people in Scotland. If you guys want to send dick pics to Scottish streamers like Shoxy or May, they can't stop you at this point. For now. Don't do that though, trust me. Don't sexually harass people on the internet. There was someone who did get convicted of it. So, court jails, first person convicted of cyber flashing in England. Nicholas Hawkes, aged 39, from Essex, convicted under the new Online Safety Act after sending images of genitals. Now, the maximum sentence is 2 years. The first person in England to be convicted of a cyber flashing offence has been jailed for 66 weeks. So, I think if this does get enforced, I don't think we'll be seeing people going away for 2 years often. I think it'll be something like a month or two, maybe 6 months at most, depending on how much of it they did. Came in effect 31st of January of this year, so it literally has been less than 3 months. I think it would have counted as sex offense, but I think because the laws are so out of date and it doesn't take into account things like digital messaging and so on, I don't think sexual offense or harassment included that sort of thing. I think maybe malicious communications, but even then, the punishment for that is like a slap on the wrist. So I think this is why they started pushing for these new laws, which I'm definitely 100% in favor of from the looks of it. I don't care if they don't get the maximum sentence of 2 years. I think this is enough to deter people from wanting to do it more in future. And I'm hoping we end up getting a reduction of it. But I think in order to do that, it needs to actually be properly enforced, and they need to show that they're willing to take the step to find the people who have been doing it and actually, enforce this law on them. It's not often I'm in favor of, the police enforcing laws on people. I'm usually advocating for the opposite, but in this case, I do want this law specifically to be enforced. The 39-year-old from Essex was already a convicted sex offender so he's already been busted for this before. He sent his images of his genitals to a 15-year-old girl and a woman on 9th of February, and he did it from his dad's phone. Imagine your son has been convicted of being a sex offender, and he asks to use your phone to call his probation officer, and then he uses your phone to send a dick pic to two women actually, one of them being another child. If anything, I think this guy probably needs some psychiatric help at this point, because no sane person would do that if they've already been caught, right? Like this level of repeat offense, unless they are just proud of being caught and just wanted to do it again because they didn't give a fuck or whatever. It's like already nonced one kid, might as well nonce another one, I guess. This probably is reasoning. Despite his previous offending, reported not to receive any treatment. Okay, no, I think that's also an issue that needs to be addressed. Because he's a previous offender, and I don't think he received. Hang on. So he was offered 12 appointments with psychiatrists. He never received them, as the waiting list is too long. Yeah, this is another issue. He had 12 whole appointments, and he couldn't get a single one because the waiting list was too long. Because everyone always likes to claim or yell about, mental health problems and so on, but at the same time, we're not doing anything to fix it when we got shit like this happening with the wait list is so long. People are repeat offending and getting arrested for it again. It's absolutely abysmal how bad the NHS has gotten under the Conservatives, essentially, because they've been slowly whittling away at it and pulling it back and pulling funding even and slowly privatizing bits of it. Because it's fucking terrible. It's actually really depressing seeing how bad the NHS has gotten. Okay, so Hawkes was on the sex offenders register after being convicted last year of sexual activity with a child under 16 and exposure. He essentially tried to nonce a 16-year-old, and he got community service for that, so he wasn't really in jail or anything. He pleaded guilty to breaching the order and reaching to 66 weeks. It feels like a slap on the wrist for someone who's done it twice now. Best part is, by the time he's done serving his sentence, he probably only has another year left on that waiting list for, actual psychiatric help. Yeah, I think this is only a half solution at this point. Because while I love the fact that they're actually enforcing it and they have actually convicted someone for this sort of thing, and I hope they do continue to do so, we need to do better for mental health services for people to stop crime from happening in the first place. At this point, right, if we keep getting worse and are unable to help people, I can't make fun of America for this shit anymore. If we end up as bad as they are with their fucking, they keep handing guns to mentally ill people and then crying about it after saying we should have done more to safeguard, because it's not, guns that kill people, it's people who have issues that we keep selling guns to that kill people. When it comes to things like being a nonce like this motherfucker here, it's really, the deck is stacked against you when it comes to getting a conviction, right? Because there have been so many fucking cases where someone has their hard drive seized and it's just full of images of like fucking kids being abused and whatnot, and they don't get any prison time for it. It's just how it is. It's really fucking difficult. Like, let's say you have ever been like abused or whatever by some piece of shit, and you do go through the entire process of taking them to court, and they do get found guilty. No guarantee they'll go to prison for it, which is why a lot of people just don't bother reporting things to the police. One thing I hope is that they make it easy enough for people to just report this sort of thing easily, and actually convict people for this sort of thing, even if it's only like a month in jail or whatever, or just a few weeks. I think that should be enough to deter it. At this point, I am this close to just plugging BetterHelp. I don't think that will help either, because they aren't really a good company either. Like, their services are questionable at best. I wouldn't trust them. If I ever got a sponsorship off them, I would just out them the fuck off at this point because of how many red flags I've seen about them.